There's a silent risk hiding in many people's medicine cabinets. It's found in nearly every multivitamin. It's often recommended to seniors, and it's something most of us assume is helping. But a growing body of research is sounding the alarm. One specific vitamin taken in excess may quietly increase your risk of stroke, especially as you age. The surprising part? It's not an obscure supplement or a synthetic compound. It's vitamin B6, a nutrient long considered safe and even beneficial for brain and nerve health. But the latest science paints a more nuanced picture. A large prospective study published in Stroke, a journal by the American Heart Association, found that excessive intake of B6, particularly through supplements, was associated with a higher risk of hemorrhagic stroke in older adults. Now let's be clear, this doesn't mean vitamin B6 is dangerous in all forms or doses. Our bodies need it. It plays a critical role in everything from brain chemistry to red blood cell production. But like many things in biology, balance matters. And after a certain age, that balance becomes more fragile. What your brain, blood vessels, and nervous system could tolerate at 30 or 40 might not serve you well at 65 or 70. Here's why this matters. Stroke is not just a cardiovascular issue, it's also deeply neurological. It can strip away independence, cognitive clarity, and emotional regulation in a single moment. And when a risk factor is hiding in something you're taking to stay healthy, the stakes become urgent. In this episode, we're going to break this down clearly and calmly. I'll walk you through what the science actually says about B6 and stroke risk in seniors, how your body processes this vitamin differently with age, what dosage range is safe, and when it crosses into risk, the critical role of liver function, inflammation, and certain medications, what blood tests can help you track B6 levels, and finally, a practical protocol to optimize your vitamin intake safely for brain and vascular health. Let's dive into the science, decode the risks, and empower you with tools, not fear, to protect your brain, your heart, and your future. If you walked into a health store and asked which vitamins support brain and nerve health, you'd likely be pointed to vitamin B6. For decades, it's been promoted as essential, and rightfully so. B6 plays a critical role in neurotransmitter production, red blood cell formation, and even mood regulation. But here's the catch. More is not always better. Let's look at what the science actually shows. Not headlines or hype, but real data. A pivotal study published in the journal Stroke by the American Heart Association tracked over 85,000 women aged 50 and older over more than a decade. Researchers were examining potential links between B vitamin intake and different types of stroke. What they found was striking. Women who consumed high supplemental doses of vitamin B6, primarily from multivitamins or standalone B6 capsules, had a significantly higher risk of hemorrhagic stroke. Now, to clarify, a hemorrhagic stroke is not the most common type of stroke. That would be ischemic, caused by blood clots. Hemorrhagic strokes occur when blood vessels in the brain rupture. They're often more severe, with higher mortality and a greater chance of lasting cognitive impairment. And here's where it gets nuanced. These women were not taking dangerous megadoses. In most cases, they were following what many supplement companies consider normal or optimal intake levels. That's the danger. The threshold between beneficial and excessive is smaller than many assume, especially as we get older. Another cross-sectional analysis out of Japan found similar associations between high serum B6 levels and microvascular brain damage, particularly in older adults. This suggests that excess circulating B6, not necessarily dietary, but from supplements, may influence the integrity of small blood vessels in the brain, what's happening biologically. At high levels, vitamin B6 can act as a neurotoxin, especially when it's not properly processed or excreted. This can cause sensory nerve damage, numbness, tingling, and in some cases, irreversible peripheral neuropathy. But neurologically, it may also weaken the structural integrity of blood vessel walls, especially in aging brains with pre-existing inflammation or oxidative stress. Here's a simple analogy. Imagine trying to patch a small leak in a garden hose using more and more tape. At some point, the added weight and pressure of that tape start stressing the hose itself. That's what can happen when high-dose B6 circulates through fragile capillaries, especially in the brain. Now, does this mean B6 is harmful and should be avoided? Not at all. It means context matters, and so does dosage. Most people get plenty of B6 from food sources. Bananas, chickpeas, potatoes, fortified cereals, and chicken all contain natural levels of this vitamin. But when you stack a multivitamin on top of a B complex, on top of a fortified breakfast, you might be getting 500 to 1,000% of the recommended daily amount every single day. And in the context of aging, when your liver and kidneys may not clear excess B6 as efficiently, that adds up. This is why personalized supplementation is so important, especially for older adults. You're not working with the same internal chemistry you had in your 20s or 30s. What once felt energizing or restorative might now increase subtle risk, not because the vitamin is bad, but because your body is different. So if you're taking a supplement right now, take a moment to flip the bottle over, look at the label. How much B6 does it contain? Is it over 2 milligrams per serving, over 10 milligrams? If so, and you're taking it daily without testing or medical guidance, it may be time to pause and reconsider. Let's go deeper into why your body's ability to process vitamins like B6 changes dramatically after the age of 50 and what that means for your health strategy going forward. Let's start with something that surprises a lot of people. Your body doesn't treat vitamins the same way at 70 as it did at 30. Even if your habits haven't changed, your physiology has. After the age of 50, a shift begins across multiple systems that affect how you absorb, metabolize, store, and eliminate nutrients. This is especially true for water-soluble vitamins like B6, which rely on proper liver function, kidney clearance, and enzyme efficiency to stay in a healthy range. Here's what the research shows. In a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, older adults were shown to have elevated plasma levels of B6, even when their intake wasn't significantly higher than younger participants. That means same dose, but more B6 circulating in the blood. Why? It's about clearance. As we age, renal kidney filtration rate slows down. This affects your ability to excrete excess B6, which the body normally gets rid of through urine. Combine that with reduced liver enzyme activity, and you get a scenario where B6 stays in the system longer than it should, leading to a gradual accumulation. This accumulation isn't obvious at first. You won't feel a sudden change, but over time, it can cause subtle neurological symptoms, tingling in the hands or feet, lightheadedness, even low mood or cognitive fog. More concerning, it can raise the risk of vascular stress, particularly in delicate brain capillaries. Here's a relatable analogy. Imagine your bloodstream as a well-managed river system in your 20s, flowing fast, clear, self-cleaning. In your 50s and 60s, that river slows. Sediment, in this case unused B6, begins to settle. A bit more builds up each day. Now imagine tossing in 500 to 1,000% of the daily recommended amount every morning. It's easy to see how things begin to back up. To make this even more relevant, many people are unknowingly stacking B6 across different products. Your multivitamin might have 10 milligrams. Your brain health blend might add another 20 milligrams. A protein bar, fortified. Breakfast cereal, fortified. By the end of the day, it's not uncommon for older adults to consume 30 to 50 milligrams of B6 daily, sometimes more. But here's the kicker. The recommended dietary allowance, RDA, for B6 in older adults is just 1.5 to 1.7 milligrams per day, depending on sex and age group. Anything beyond 20 milligrams per day consistently, especially without testing, is entering a risk zone. Not immediately toxic, but cumulative over time. So what can you do? A simple tool to apply is this. Track, then test. Track your daily intake of B6 from all sources for 3 days, supplements, fortified foods, and whole foods. Use a nutrition tracking app or just write it down. Add it up. Test your plasma levels of pyridoxal 5-phosphate, PLP, the active form of B6, through a basic blood test. This can give you insight into your body's actual B6 status, not just what you're taking in, but how well you're processing it. If this kind of insight is helping you, consider subscribing. We dive into actionable science like this every week, grounded, clear, and designed to help you think smarter about your health. Understanding how your body changes with age isn't about fear, it's about precision. You can still support your brain, blood vessels, and immune system effectively, but the strategy needs to evolve. Just like you wouldn't use the same workout routine at 70 that you used in your 30s, you shouldn't follow the same supplement habits either, especially when it comes to B vitamins. Now, we'll explore a lesser known connection, how inflammation and medications can secretly elevate B6 levels, even when your dosage is normal. Even if you're taking what seems like a normal dose of vitamin B6, there's a hidden factor that could be working against you. Two, actually. They're often overlooked, but they're critical. Your medications and your inflammation levels. Both have a profound impact on how vitamin B6 moves through your body, especially after the age of 50. And if you're like most older adults, you might be taking medications that unintentionally elevate B6 or disrupt its normal processing without you realizing it. Let's start with medications. Research from the Journal of Clinical Pharmacology and Drug Metabolism Reviews has identified several common drug classes that either interfere with B6 metabolism or increase its retention in the body. Among the most relevant are diuretics, often used for high blood pressure, antihypertensives, especially SSRIs and MAOIs, isoniazid, used for TB, hydralazine, levodopa, used for Parkinson's disease. These medications can alter liver enzyme function or compete for metabolic pathways that B6 relies on. The result, even a modest intake of B6 may lead to higher than expected plasma concentrations because it's not being broken down and eliminated efficiently. Now let's layer in chronic inflammation. As we age, low-grade inflammation becomes more common, something scientists often refer to as inflammaging. It's driven by oxidative stress, insulin resistance, joint degeneration, even poor sleep or high stress. What most people don't realize is that inflammation increases the demand for B6, especially its active form, pyroxal 5-phosphate. PL, that sounds like a good thing, right? More demand, more usage. But here's the twist. Inflammation doesn't just use more B6. It also disrupts the conversion of inactive B6 to its usable form. So you end up with a paradox. High B6 in the blood, but low B6 activity in the cells. That's like having a full fuel tank with a broken ignition. This mismatch creates confusion and risk. On lab tests, it may look like you have enough B6 because your total plasma level is elevated, but your nervous system may still be underpowered, while your vascular system is under stress from the excess. Think of it like this. Inflammation makes your body more B6 hungry, but also less B6 efficient, leading to accumulation without benefit. So what can you do? Here's a simple framework. Review your medication list. Ask your doctor or pharmacist, do any of these medications interact with vitamin B6 metabolism? Even better, bring in your supplement list so they can see the full picture. Evaluate for inflammation. If you're dealing with joint pain, fatigue, brain fog, or other chronic issues, it's worth asking your physician to check inflammatory markers like CRP, creatine protein, or homocysteine, which B6 also helps regulate. Don't supplement blindly. If your body is inflamed or your medications are altering B6 clearance, adding more of the vitamin can backfire. You're not fixing a deficiency, you're feeding an imbalance. Support B6 with cofactors. B6 doesn't work in isolation. It relies on nutrients like magnesium and zinc for optimal enzyme function. Supporting these systems can sometimes do more than simply increasing B6 dosage. Ultimately, this is a call to personalization. The one-size-fits-all model of supplementation doesn't work. Especially after 50, what your body needed 10 years ago might now be what it struggles to clear. And here's the good news. Once you understand these hidden dynamics, the role of your prescriptions, your immune system, and your metabolism, you can make smarter, safer choices that protect your brain and your blood vessels. Up next, we'll explore how excess B6 can actually cross into the nervous system and potentially harm it, even without causing a stroke. What's happening inside your brain when B6 goes too high might surprise you. And quick reminder, if this content is helping you take control of your health, go ahead and like this video or share it with someone who might need it. It helps the channel grow and helps others get the clarity they need. So far, we've explored how excess vitamin B6 can build up in the body, especially when you're older, inflamed, or on medications that impair clearance. But what happens when that B6 crosses into your nervous system? Here's where things get especially important and personal. Because beyond stroke risk, one of the most under-recognized dangers of B6 toxicity is its impact on your brain and peripheral nerves. Let's start with a fundamental fact. Vitamin B6 is both essential and potentially neurotoxic. At healthy levels, it helps synthesize critical neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, which regulate everything from mood to motor function. It also helps build myelin, the insulating sheath that protects nerve fibers. But when B6 becomes too concentrated, especially in its unbound forms, it can do the opposite, disrupt nerve signaling and damage nerve cells. A 2007 study in neurology followed patients who developed unexplained tingling, numbness, and coordination problems. Many of them were found to have elevated B6 levels from long-term supplementation. When they stopped taking it, their symptoms improved, but not always completely. That's key. Neuropathy from B6 toxicity can become permanent if not caught early. So what's happening inside the brain? Here's what the research suggests. Excess B6 may disrupt the blood-brain barrier, the specialized filter that protects your brain from toxins, pathogens, and even certain nutrients in the blood. Under normal conditions, only very specific molecules are allowed through. But high concentrations of B6, particularly in aging individuals with vascular fragility, can loosen the tight junctions of this barrier. Here's what the research suggests. Excess B6 may disrupt the tight junctions of this barrier. Once that happens, not only can B6 flood into the brain in excess, but other substances that don't belong there can also sneak in. This sets the stage for neuroinflammation, brain fog, and in some cases, long-term damage to glial cells, the support structures of your central nervous system. Have you noticed things like tingling or burning sensations in your hands or feet, more frequent clumsiness or unsteady gait, brain fog that doesn't lift even after sleep or caffeine? These are subtle neurological red flags. They don't always mean B6 is the cause. But if you're supplementing regularly and experiencing these symptoms, it's worth asking your doctor about it. B6 toxicity is easy to miss and often misdiagnosed as a pinched nerve, carpal tunnel, or even early Parkinson's. One of the challenges is that people assume water-soluble means harmless. The thinking goes, if I take too much, my body will just pee it out. But this isn't always true, especially not after 50. As your clearance slows, your B6 levels may rise and linger, quietly affecting your nerves long before blood levels show a problem. And here's a practical takeaway. If you're over 50 and taking more than 10 milligrams of B6 daily, consider getting a plasma PLP test. That's the active form of B6 in the blood. Optimal levels typically fall between 20 to 125 nanomoles per liter. Levels above 200 nanomoles per liter are associated with neurological symptoms, even in otherwise healthy adults. And if you're experiencing symptoms The solution isn't always complicated. Stop or reduce supplementation. Shift toward food-based sources. Foods like salmon, turkey, spinach, and bananas contain B6 in naturally balanced forms. Support your liver and kidney function through hydration, anti-inflammatory foods, and regular movement. This isn't about fear, it's about feedback. Your nervous system is constantly communicating with you. The tingles, the fatigue, the cognitive dullness, these are all signals. And when we listen early, we can respond intelligently. Now, we'll clear up a big point of confusion. How much B6 do you actually need? And at what point does supportive become too much? Let's talk numbers, because when it comes to vitamin B6, the dose makes the difference between medicine and harm. We've seen how vitamin B6 supports your brain, blood vessels, and metabolism, but only within a specific window. Step outside that window, and the same compound that once protected your nerves can start to damage them. So the natural question is, what's the right amount? According to the National Institutes of Health, NIH, the recommended dietary allowance, RDA, for adults over 50 is 1.7 milligrams per day for men, 1.5 milligrams per day for women. That's all your body typically needs to support normal metabolic, cognitive, and cardiovascular function. And in many cases, you can get that from food alone. One medium banana, a small serving of chicken breast, and a handful of spinach can get you most of the way there. But here's the problem. Many supplements far exceed this dose. Walk down the supplement aisle, and you'll find B-complex capsules with 20 milligram, 50 milligram, even 100 milligrams of B6 in a single serving. And that's just one product. Stack that with a multivitamin, often another 10, 25 milligram, a protein shake, and maybe a brain health or energy blend, and you could easily reach 50 to 80 milligrams per day, 30 to 50 times the RDA. Is that dangerous? Not immediately. B6 is water soluble, meaning the body can excrete excess amounts, but only to a point. Studies have shown that chronic intake above 100 milligrams per day increases the risk of sensory neuropathy, that tingling, numbness, or burning sensation in the hands and feet that can become permanent if not addressed. But here's what's more relevant for most people. Even doses as low as 20 to 50 milligrams daily, when taken long-term, have been associated with elevated plasma B6 levels and early neurological symptoms, particularly in older adults with slower metabolism or compromised kidney function. A 2017 review in Toxicology Reports analyzed dozens of cases of B6-induced toxicity. One key takeaway: many of the affected individuals were within the safe dose range, but took B6 daily for months or years without monitoring. The danger wasn't high dosage, it was chronic exposure without awareness. So here's a science-backed, practical framework. If you're supplementing, keep total daily intake under 10 mils unless advised otherwise by your doctor. Be cautious with multi-product stacking. Check B6 levels across all your supplements. Take breaks. Even beneficial nutrients don't always need to be taken every single day. If you're getting B6 from food, that's ideal. The body absorbs and regulates naturally occurring B6 much more effectively than synthetic forms. Focus on a mix of salmon, turkey and chicken, spinach, potatoes, and sweet peppers, bananas, avocados, and fortified cereals, sparingly. If you're unsure about your levels, ask your doctor for a plasma PLP test, pyridoxal 5-phosphate. It's simple and it gives you clarity. Ideal levels, 20 to 125 nanomoles per liter. Above 200 nanomoles per liter equals investigate for symptoms and consider stopping supplementation. And remember, more isn't always better. In nutrition, especially after 50, precision matters more than quantity. Think of your nervous system like a finely tuned instrument. It doesn't need a megaphone. It needs just the right frequency. Oversupplying B6 drowns out the signal, leading to dysfunction instead of support. Now, we'll pull all of this together into a practical, senior-friendly protocol for supplementing safely, including what tests to ask for, what levels to aim for, and how to balance your nutrients for maximum cognitive and vascular protection. At this point, we've broken down the hidden risk of excess B6, how age changes your metabolism, and why normal supplements can quietly become harmful. Now it's time to shift from risk awareness to something more empowering. What can you actually do to protect your brain, nerves, and blood vessels while still getting the benefits of smart nutrition? Here's a science-backed protocol specifically for older adults who want to optimize their supplement strategy safely and effectively. Step 1, test before you supplement before adding any new vitamin, especially B6. Get a baseline measurement of your current levels. The test you want is plasma pyridoxal 5-phosphate, PLP. This measures the active form of B6 in the blood. Ask your healthcare provider for this test, particularly if you take any supplements with B6, are on medications that affect liver or kidney function, have symptoms like tingling, numbness, or chronic fatigue. Target range, optimal 20 to 125 nanomoles per liter. Potentially risky, above 200 nanomoles per liter. If your levels are already high, you may not need any supplemental B6 at all. Step 2, shift to food-based sources. Whenever possible, rely on natural dietary sources of vitamin B6. These are better absorbed, balanced with other nutrients, and less likely to lead to toxicity. Focus on salmon, rich in B6 and omega-3 est, turkey and chicken breast, spinach, potatoes, and winter squash, bananas and avocados, fortified whole grains, if tolerated. These sources offer B6 in amounts your body can manage, and they bring along antioxidants, fiber, and other synergistic nutrients. Step 3, audit your supplement stack. Most people don't realize they're over-supplementing because B6 hides in multiple products. Take 10 minutes to gather everything you take regularly. Multivitamins, brain health formulas, energy blends, shakes, bars, even sleep aids. Add up the B6 content. If you're over 10 milligrams per day, it's time to scale back, especially if you're not testing regularly. If you're currently taking a B complex, consider switching to one with lower or no added B6, or take it every other day instead of daily. Step 4, time your supplements strategically. If you do need a small supplemental dose of B6, say for cognitive support or to help regulate homocysteine, timing matters. The best time to take B6 is in the morning with a protein-rich meal. Avoid taking it late in the day, especially if you're sensitive to vivid dreams, overstimulation, or restlessness. B6 plays a role in neurotransmitter activity, including serotonin and dopamine. Step 5, support the bigger system. Remember, B6 doesn't work alone. It relies on a healthy liver, efficient kidneys, and proper co-nutrients to do its job. To support this, stay hydrated. Water helps kidneys clear excess water-soluble vitamins. Support liver function with cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, and herbs like milk thistle, if approved by your doctor. Get magnesium and zinc. These minerals are required for B6 activation and neurotransmitter balance. Step 6, retest every 6-12 months. If you're over 50 and supplementing in any way, consider rechecking your B6 status twice a year. It's a small effort that can prevent massive downstream complications from stroke risk to neuropathy to cognitive decline. And if you're ever unsure, remember this rule of thumb. Food first, supplements second, testing always. This protocol is about precision, not paranoia. It's not that B6 is dangerous, it's that your biology has changed, and your strategy should evolve with it. Now we'll bring all of this together, recapping the key insights, highlighting what you can do today, and offering one specific action to take now to protect your brain and body for years to come. Let's take a moment to step back and look at the big picture. We started with a surprising insight. Vitamin B6 a nutrient long considered safe, can quietly raise the risk of hemorrhagic stroke in older adults, particularly when consumed in excess through supplements. But the real takeaway isn't about fear. It's about understanding how your body evolves with age and how to work with it rather than against it. Here's what the research showed us. After the age of 50, your ability to metabolize and eliminate vitamins, especially water-soluble ones like B6, begins to decline. The same dose that was harmless in your 30s can accumulate in your 60s. Chronic inflammation and certain medications further slow B6 clearance and alter its conversion into the active form. This creates a mismatch. Too much B6 in your bloodstream, but not enough where your cells actually need it. When excess B6 reaches your nervous system, it can trigger neuropathy, neuroinflammation, and even interfere with the blood-brain barrier, all without warning signs until damage is underway. And even if you're not megadosing, stacking multiple normal supplements can raise your total intake well above safe limits. But the most empowering insight? This risk is completely manageable and reversible when approached with science, clarity, and care. Here are the behavioral tools you can use right now. Track your intake. Review your supplements, foods, and fortified products. Add up your daily B6 dose. If it's above 10 milligrams per day, consider scaling back. Test your levels. Ask for a plasma PLP test. It's simple and gives you a direct look at whether your B6 levels are in a healthy range. Prioritize food-based B6. Whole foods provide B6 in bioavailable, balanced amounts. Focus on foods like salmon, spinach, chicken, bananas, and potatoes. Avoid stacking. Be especially cautious with multivitamins, energy drinks, and brain-boosting blends. If you take a B complex, make sure the dosage is appropriate for your age and clearance rate. Support your detox pathways, hydrate well, eat anti-inflammatory foods, stay active, support liver and kidney health because your body clears excess nutrients through these systems. Retest every 6 to 12 months. Think of it like a tune-up. Your brain and nervous system deserve it. This isn't just about avoiding risk. It's about unlocking clarity. Because when your vitamin intake is balanced, your mind is sharper, your nerves are steadier, and your vascular system is protected, you're not just preventing disease, you're building resilience. You're giving your brain the clean, precise fuel it needs to age powerfully and perform consistently. So here's one action I'd invite you to take today. Go check the label on your supplement. Just one. Look at the B6 content. If it's over 10 milligrams, ask yourself, do I really need this dose? Have I tested my levels? Am I feeling symptoms I've been brushing off? That one moment of awareness can change the direction of your health for years to come. And if this episode gave you something valuable, a new insight, a sense of clarity, or a practical tool, I'd love to invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might benefit. This community is built on evidence, not hype, and every share helps get real, science-backed health information to the people who need it most. Until next time, stay sharp, stay informed, and remember, your brain, your health, your future, they're not fixed. They're adaptable. You just need the right tools to steer them well.